how much dorsiflexion do we really need in a squat? The squat is a complex movement. We need a certain amount of ankle range of motion, yes. We need a certain amount of knee flexion, knee range of motion. We're gonna need a certain amount of hip range of motion as well, in flexion and in rotation. But we also need to understand that how we start the movement from a proximal standpoint, by proximal I mean how our rib cage is interacting with our pelvis, is also going to impact how much range of motion we need in the downstream joints in that movement. So for example, if I'm starting a squat pattern in a position where I'm extended through my chest, my body weight's leaning forward, I'm being pulled to the front part of my foot, and I go down and descend to a squat, to keep me balanced, I must extend and arch my lower back to keep my pressure in the middle of my foot. Now with that, with this extended position, this also leads me to run out of room in my hip socket. If I'm only concerned about keeping my chest tall, the rest of my body must move and change to keep me from falling backwards on my heels. What this also does is it also leads to a limitation of my knees from traveling forward. So if my chest is forward, my hips are going to go back. As I go down and try and stay balanced on my foot, right, I'm going to get to a point where I can no longer descend in my squat position. Now, if that looks like your squat and you've been chasing ankle mobility, it might be time to start looking at some other things, like how we're starting from a proximal position in that squat pattern. And that's why we love an anterior loaded goblet squat or front squat or zercher or safety bar squat. Because what this allows us to do, it allows us to reorganize our torso and keep a good relationship between our pelvis and rib cage. So in this case, I'm able to start in a stacked position, and I'm able to maintain that stacked position as I descend in my squat. So by changing the start position of my torso and of my pelvis and low back, I'm able to keep my hips under me, my knees are able to move forward, and in this position, you'll see that my knees are not necessarily too far over my toes. More dorsiflexion is not necessarily going to help this position. Now, if I drop this load and need to balance myself, you may see my chest come up and my hips go back. Again, I'm working within the constraints to keep myself balanced on my foot. So again, main takeaway here, if you've been chasing ankle dorsiflexion to improve your squat depth and it has not been helping, it may be worth looking at our starting position of our proximal segments. Can I get my ribcage down, back, and in? Can I get my hips under me? Can I use a counterbalance as a tool to teach my body how to maintain that relationship while we descend into the squat? Hope this helps.